I never thought coming home could feel this heavy. Ethan Carter mutters under his breath as he steps out of the black SUV, the sun dipping low over the quiet streets of his childhood neighborhood. The air carries that familiar mix of crisp autumn leaves and distant city hum, a stark contrast to the war-torn landscapes he's left behind. He grips the leather handle of his suitcase, each step echoing against the pavement like a drumbeat of his racing heart. The white picket fences, the neatly trimmed lawns, the smell of freshly baked bread from the corner bakery. It all feels like a memory suspended in time, yet painfully out of reach. Ethan pauses at the edge of the driveway, staring up at the modest two-story home where he grew up, his chest tightening as if the walls themselves are holding their breath, waiting for him. The front door swings open, revealing Margaret Sullivan, his mother, framed in the warm glow of the living room light. Her hair, now streaked with silver, falls softly around her face, and her eyes, those familiar deep brown eyes, widen for a moment before a shadow of worry crosses them. Ethan swallows hard, the weight of years and distance pressing down on him. He remembers the countless letters he never sent, the calls he never made, the birthdays missed, and milestones unseen. Each memory hits like a wave, washing over him in a tide of regret and longing. Margaret takes a tentative step forward, her hand brushing against the doorframe, as if to steady herself. She opens her mouth, perhaps to say his name, perhaps to ask a question, but words fail her. Ethan finally moves, closing the distance between them in hesitant, deliberate steps, feeling the uneven ground beneath his polished shoes. The scent of her lavender perfume, faint yet comforting, wraps around him, pulling at threads of a past he had tucked away behind medals, deployments, and corporate deals. His hand hovers for a moment before gently reaching out, trembling slightly as he touches her shoulder. The warmth radiates up his arm, a grounding sensation that makes the years of separation tangible, yet somehow bearable. Margaret's eyes glisten, a mixture of relief, disbelief, and unspoken sorrow, as she steps closer, resting her hand over his. The silence between them is dense, filled with 100 unsaid apologies, countless missed moments, and the unshakable bond of a mother and her son. Ethan glances at the photograph on the hallway table, a faded snapshot of them both from years ago, his young self grinning beside her in the sun-drenched yard. The image sparks a small, almost painful smile, and he feels the first real pull of home in his chest since leaving. He bends slightly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, and for a fleeting moment, the war, the business world, the constant drive to succeed, all of it fades, leaving only the raw, unfiltered connection between his son and his mother. The kitchen clock ticks softly, a gentle reminder of the time that has passed and the time that remains, urging him to hold this moment, to not let the past define the entirety of their reunion. Ethan Carter's eyes mist over, and he takes a deep, steadying breath, the gravity of what he's seeing and feeling anchoring him to the present. This is more than a return. It is a reckoning, an emotional homecoming where every step, every glance, every heartbeat counts toward a reconciliation that has waited years in the wings. The house is quiet except for the soft tick of the kitchen clock, each second marking the fragile passage of time that Ethan has missed for years. He moves carefully to the living room, noting the way sunlight filters through the sheer curtains, dust particles dancing like tiny stars in the golden light. Margaret sits on the sofa, a thin blanket draped across her shoulders, her hands folded neatly on her lap. She looks at him with a mixture of hope and apprehension, as if she cannot believe he is truly standing there. Ethan lowers his suitcase to the floor and kneels beside her, his fingers brushing lightly against hers, feeling the delicate warmth that remains despite the years apart. He notices the small details, the way her eyes have softened with age, the faint lines on her hands, the subtle tremor in her voice when she speaks. He clears his throat softly, forcing words to bridge the silence that has stretched between them. For so long. "Mom, I have missed so much," he says, his voice thick with emotion. Margaret exhales slowly, nodding, her own eyes shimmering with unshed tears. She reaches out, placing a hand on his cheek, a touch that conveys both forgiveness and longing. Ethan takes a deep breath and lets himself relax slightly, leaning into the warmth of her hand, feeling the bond they had once shared rekindling. He remembers the afternoons spent in the garden, her teaching him to plant seeds, to nurture small blooms, lessons that now resonate as he realizes the fragility of life and the importance of presence. He begins to ask gently about her health, about the doctors, about how she has been managing alone, and she responds with a quiet strength, explaining the adjustments she has made, the small routines that keep her moving. Ethan listens intently, committing every detail to memory, understanding that these moments are precious and perhaps fleeting. He stands slowly, retrieving a small bag from his suitcase, one of the many tokens he has brought back to make up for lost time. Inside are photos, letters, and small keepsakes from his travels, gifts meant to reconnect their shared history and create new memories. Margaret looks at them with a soft smile, a glimmer of joy breaking through her worry, and Ethan feels a wave of relief. He suggests they take a walk outside, just for a few minutes, to feel the crisp autumn air, to breathe in the scent of the trees, to remember the world outside the walls that have confined her. They move together slowly, Ethan supporting her as they step into the front yard, the sun warming their faces, the leaves crunching beneath their feet. He begins to recount stories from his deployment, carefully omitting the darker moments, focusing instead on acts of kindness, camaraderie, and lessons learned, each tale designed to entertain and comfort. Margaret listens, occasionally laughing softly, the sound filling the quiet street, drawing the neighbors' attention in fleeting glimpses. She asks questions, curiosity sparking in her eyes, wanting to understand the man her son has become, the experiences that shaped him. Ethan answers with honesty and humility, recognizing that he cannot change the past, but can honor it by being fully present now. As the sun continues its descent, casting long shadows across the lawn, Ethan realizes the weight of responsibility, not just for his mother's well-being, but for the opportunity to rebuild the emotional bridge that has been fractured. He places his hand gently on her shoulder again, reassuring her, promising to be there in every way he can. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the simple beauty of home, he feels the first true sense of peace he has known in years, the realization that healing begins not with grand gestures, but with the willingness to be present, to care, and to reconnect. As they step back inside, the warm light of the living room wrapping around them like a protective cocoon, Ethan helps Margaret settle into her favorite armchair, the fabric worn soft from years of use. He kneels beside her once again, carefully placing the keepsakes he brought from his travels on the small wooden coffee table, arranging them so that each item is visible, a mosaic of memory and thoughtfulness. Margaret leans forward slightly, her eyes scanning the photographs, letters, and small trinkets, a gentle smile forming on her lips as she touches each one, her fingers lingering on the edges of the pictures as if trying to feel the emotions captured within them. Ethan watches her closely, noting the subtle rise and fall of her chest, the way her hands tremble lightly, and he feels a mixture of relief and lingering worry. He begins to recount a story from his time overseas, carefully selecting a memory that is lighthearted, one that brings a touch of humor amidst the gravity of their reunion, describing the way a fellow soldier had improvised a makeshift celebration for a holiday, complete with handmade decorations and shared laughter that momentarily bridged the distance between the harshness of duty and the comfort of camaraderie. Margaret laughs softly, the sound like wind chimes in the quiet room, and Ethan feels a swell of warmth in his chest, realizing how much he has missed these small, human connections. He notices her favorite quilt folded over the arm of the chair and gently adjusts it across her shoulders, the familiar scent of lavender and worn cotton filling the air between them, grounding him in the present. They sit together in companionable silence for a few moments, the only sounds the quiet ticking of the clock and the occasional creak of the floorboards, and Ethan finds himself reflecting on the years lost, the moments he cannot reclaim, and the chance he now has to make things right. He reaches for her hand again, intertwining his fingers with hers, offering reassurance through touch rather than words, feeling the pulse of life and love that has persisted despite the separation. Margaret squeezes his hand gently, a silent affirmation of her presence and acceptance, and Ethan feels a fragile sense of hope beginning to blossom within him. He begins to speak of the future, carefully with measured optimism, discussing plans to assist with her care, to bring more warmth and activity into her days, suggesting small outings, visits from old friends, and moments of joy that can be reclaimed and relived. She listens intently, her eyes reflecting both the joy of connection and the acknowledgement of her limitations, and Ethan senses a quiet determination in her response, a willingness to embrace the time they have together. The afternoon sun filters through the windows, casting a golden glow across the room, illuminating the bond being rebuilt with each shared glance and gentle word. Ethan offers to make tea, moving to the kitchen and returning with a steaming cup placed carefully in her hands, the warmth a tangible expression of care. Margaret sips slowly, savoring not just the tea but the presence of her son, and Ethan sits beside her, their shoulders brushing lightly. The physical proximity is small, but meaningful bridge across the years apart. He begins to narrate small anecdotes from his life, both challenging and amusing, each story a thread weaving them closer together, creating a tapestry of shared experiences and renewed trust. As evening approaches, the room grows quiet once more, but the atmosphere is charged with the unspoken understanding that this reunion is the beginning of a slow, deliberate healing. A process that will take patience, attention, and love, but one that promises the restoration of the profound bond between mother and son, each moment building toward a future where presence and care replace absence and longing. As the evening shadows lengthen across the living room, Ethan sits beside Margaret, observing the subtle rise and fall of her chest as she leans back into the cushions, her expression a mixture of fatigue and serenity. He pours a fresh cup of tea for both of them, the steam curling upward, carrying with it the familiar scent of chamomile that she has always preferred, and hands it to her with a careful, deliberate motion, ensuring that her hands are steady. Margaret accepts it with a grateful smile, her fingers brushing against his briefly, a fleeting touch that communicates more than words ever could. Ethan begins to recount small stories from his recent life, moments that are light and filled with humor, describing the little victories and challenges he has faced, the friendships he has nurtured, and the acts of kindness he has witnessed along the way. Margaret listens intently, her eyes glistening with a quiet appreciation, occasionally nodding or chuckling softly at the anecdotes, and Ethan feels a warmth spread through him, realizing that these simple exchanges are rebuilding the bridge between them that time and distance had eroded. He notices the stack of books on a nearby table, some old favorites from his childhood, and reaches over to pick one up, flipping through the pages and sharing passages that had inspired him, prompting Margaret to recall her own memories and lessons learned in raising him. Their conversation flows naturally, interweaving reflections on the past with gentle hopes for the future, creating a rhythm that is both comforting and cathartic. Ethan carefully inquires about her daily routines, her needs, and her comfort, and together they make small adjustments to ensure that her days are filled with manageable tasks and moments of joy. He helps her settle into a more comfortable position, arranging pillows to support her back, and offers to play some soft music in the background, choosing familiar melodies that evoke nostalgia without overwhelming her senses. Margaret closes her eyes for a moment, taking in the gentle sounds and the presence of her son, and Ethan observes the peaceful expression on her face, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment and connection. He brings up plans for small outings, walks through the neighborhood, visits to the park, and shared meals that allow them to reconnect with the world outside the house, emphasizing the importance of both activity and companionship. She responds with thoughtful consideration, her gaze steady and engaged, as they discuss these ideas and gently negotiate the pace and timing to ensure comfort and enjoyment. Ethan notices the framed photographs along the mantelpiece, images of family celebrations and moments long past, and he carefully retouches some of the frames and dusts the surfaces, small gestures that communicate his care and attention to detail. Margaret watches, a soft smile playing on her lips, and Ethan feels the satisfaction of contributing to her comfort and well-being. As the evening deepens, the golden light of the setting sun fades into a warm lamplight, casting long shadows across the room, and the quiet hum of the house serves as a backdrop to their shared presence. Ethan feels a profound sense of gratitude for this time, the opportunity to mend what was broken, to nurture the connection that has been neglected, and to create a foundation of care and mutual respect that will carry them forward. They share moments of laughter, reminisce about childhood mischief, and reflect on lessons learned, all while fostering a sense of security and love that neither had fully realized until this reunion. Each gesture, each word, each pause in their conversation strengthens the bond that had been strained, weaving together past and present into a tapestry of understanding, warmth, and family intimacy, leaving both Ethan and Margaret with a sense of hope and the quiet knowledge that they are no longer apart in heart, even if the years have kept them separated physically. The next morning, the soft glow of sunrise filters through the curtains, casting a warm, gentle light across the living room where Ethan sits. With Margaret, he watches her carefully as she stirs, noticing the subtle changes in her posture, the slight effort it takes to sit upright, and the way her eyes meet his with recognition and trust. The scent of freshly brewed coffee drifts from the kitchen, mingling with the faint aroma of autumn leaves carried in from the open window, creating a familiar, comforting atmosphere that immediately eases the tension in the room. Ethan moves to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, carefully arranging plates with simple, nourishing foods, mindful of her dietary needs, and returns with a tray, setting it gently on the small table in front of her. Margaret accepts a cup of tea, her hands wrapping around it as if drawing strength from the warmth, and Ethan takes a seat beside her, observing the rhythm of her breathing and the softness of her expression. He begins to recount small anecdotes from his journey back home, moments of quiet reflection, brief encounters with neighbors, and the fleeting beauty of sunrise over the city skyline, sharing not only what he has seen, but also what he has felt, allowing his emotions to surface and be acknowledged. Margaret listens attentively, occasionally nodding or smiling, her eyes glistening with tears of understanding and connection, and Ethan feels the invisible walls between them dissolve with each shared story and gentle touch. They discuss her favorite books and memories from his childhood, recalling the scent of freshly baked pies, the sound of laughter echoing through the hallways, and the small joys that had once filled their home. And Ethan realizes how these simple elements of daily life carry profound significance and can rekindle the spirit of family. He suggests small plans for the day, a walk to the nearby park, tending to the garden together, and perhaps a visit from a close family friend, each idea met with careful consideration and quiet approval from Margaret. Her engagement in these plans a testament to her growing comfort and renewed vitality. Ethan helps her to stand, supporting her gently as they move to the hallway, making sure each step is deliberate and safe. And he notices how even the smallest gestures, like holding her hand or adjusting a pillow, foster reassurance and deep emotional connection. As they move through the house, he points out familiar landmarks, the picture frames, the faded wallpaper, the tiny imperfections that tell the story of a home lived in with love, and Margaret responds with laughter and gentle commentary, delighting in his attention to detail and the care he shows in noticing what she holds dear. Ethan reflects on the journey that has brought them to this moment, understanding that the path to healing and reconnection is slow and deliberate, requiring patience, empathy, and consistent presence. He makes a promise to himself to be attentive, to nurture their bond, and to ensure that the time they have together is filled with meaningful interactions and moments of shared joy. Margaret, in turn, expresses quiet gratitude for his presence, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief, love, and the comfort of knowing that her son is fully here with her, ready to rebuild what distance and time had strained. They settle back into the living room, enjoying the soft morning light, the warmth of tea and food, and the simple pleasure of each other's company. With Ethan narrating small hopes for the future, envisioning days filled with laughter, conversation, and the nurturing of a renewed familial bond that is both resilient and deeply cherished. The atmosphere is imbued with a sense of peace and mutual understanding, each moment reinforcing their connection and the beginning of a journey that promises healing, love, and a reconnection to what matters most. Late in the afternoon, the soft light filters through the living room windows, painting everything in warm amber hues as Ethan helps Margaret adjust the cushions around her, making sure she is comfortable. He notices the slight tremor in her hands and the weariness in her posture, and he feels a deep sense of responsibility wash over him, mingled with the unspoken regret of years spent apart. He takes a moment to sit beside her, gently placing his hand over hers, and Margaret responds by squeezing it softly, a quiet affirmation of trust and connection. Ethan begins to speak of small plans for the coming days, suggesting short walks around the neighborhood, tending to the garden together, and revisiting the old spots they used to frequent as a family. Each idea met with careful consideration for Margaret, her eyes brightening with the possibility of shared experiences. He listens attentively as she recounts memories from her own life, stories of neighbors, friends, and moments of personal triumph, allowing her voice to fill the room and creating a rhythm of dialogue that is both soothing and grounding. Ethan reflects on his own journey, sharing insights and lessons learned during his time away, emphasizing the value of patience, empathy, and attentiveness, and Margaret responds with gentle nods and quiet laughter, her expressions conveying appreciation and renewed vitality. He carefully retrieves a photo album from the shelf, flipping through pages that capture years of family celebrations, vacations, and milestones, and together they reminisce, each image sparking memories and laughter, tears and sighs, deepening the emotional bond that had been frayed over time. Ethan takes care to note her preferences, her routines, and her subtle cues, understanding that these small attentions are the foundation of the trust and closeness they are rebuilding. He moves with deliberation, offering assistance with simple tasks, ensuring that Margaret feels supported without being overwhelmed, and she responds with gratitude and quiet joy, the exchange reinforcing their reconnection. They discuss future visits from extended family and friends, imagining meals, games, and shared moments that will bring life and warmth back into the home, each plan solidifying the sense of hope and continuity that Ethan wishes to cultivate. As evening approaches, the golden light deepens into a richer, cozier glow, and Ethan offers to prepare a simple dinner, moving through the kitchen with careful movements, mindful of every detail, returning with plates arranged neatly, ensuring comfort and ease for Margaret. They share the meal slowly, talking about the flavors, the memories associated with each dish, and the little joys that food can bring, their conversation flowing naturally and comfortably, filled with pauses for reflection and moments of connection. Ethan takes time to ensure the living room is arranged in a way that supports relaxation and peace, adjusting pillows, drawing the blanket closer over Margaret, and sitting nearby, sharing stories, anecdotes, and quiet laughter, each exchange reinforcing their bond and the warmth of family presence. He watches the shadows shift across the walls, the room alive with subtle movements and soft sounds, and feels a profound sense of gratitude for this moment, knowing that while he cannot reclaim the years lost, he can dedicate himself to being fully present now, nurturing a connection that is patient, loving, and restorative. Each word, each gesture, each shared smile builds upon the last, weaving a tapestry of emotional security, mutual care, and the deep, abiding love between mother and son that will continue to strengthen with every passing day, anchoring them both in the understanding that they are no longer alone and that the future holds the promise of healing, companionship, and shared joy. The night deepens outside, and inside the softly lit living room, Ethan Carter sits close to Margaret, both enveloped in a calm silence that is as profound as it is comforting. The gentle hum of the heating system and the occasional creak of the wooden floor become a quiet rhythm that marks the passage of time, and Ethan reflects on the journey that brought him back to this very moment. He notices the faint lines etched into Margaret's face, each one a testament to years of experience, resilience, and unwavering love, and he feels a surge of admiration mixed with tender protectiveness. Carefully, he reaches over and takes her hand, holding it gently, feeling the warmth and pulse beneath his fingers, an intimate connection that words cannot capture. Margaret glances up at him, her eyes meeting his with a mix of curiosity, relief, and unspoken emotion, and she squeezes his hand in response, communicating trust and acknowledgement without a single word. Ethan begins to speak softly, sharing his hopes for the days ahead, suggesting small projects they might undertake together, like planting new flowers in the garden, organizing the living room with photographs and mementos, and creating simple routines that can bring joy and structure to their lives. Each suggestion is met with a thoughtful nod from Margaret, her face lighting up with quiet excitement as she envisions the possibilities. He listens attentively as she speaks of her memories, her likes and dislikes, and the small comforts she has cherished over the years, and he internalizes these details, understanding that true care lies in noticing the subtle nuances of her life. Together, they plan a short walk for the following morning, imagining the crisp air, the rustling leaves, and the sense of renewal that comes with stepping outside after a long period of confinement. Ethan moves with deliberate care as he helps Margaret adjust her chair and blanket, making sure she is secure and comfortable, and she responds with a soft smile, her eyes reflecting the deep appreciation and love that has grown between them in such a short time. He retrieves a photo frame from the mantel, showing a picture of them both from years ago, and they reminisce, sharing laughter, sighs, and moments of poignant reflection, the shared memories acting as a bridge connecting the past with the present. Ethan recounts small stories from his time away, focusing on moments of human kindness, quiet victories, and lessons learned, each narrative carefully chosen to entertain, inspire, and provide comfort, and Margaret listens with rapt attention, occasionally laughing or nodding, her expressions mirroring pride and empathy. The room is filled with warmth and calm, the kind that comes from shared presence and the simple understanding that they are together again. And Ethan feels the full weight of responsibility and joy in being able to provide both comfort and companionship. He encourages her to share her thoughts about the future, her desires for everyday life, and her quiet wishes for the time they can still enjoy together. And she responds with candid honesty, trusting that he will listen and act with thoughtfulness. As the evening stretches on, Ethan carefully ensures that the environment is soothing, arranging pillows and blankets, adjusting lighting, and providing small comforts that create a sense of security and calm. He continues to share anecdotes, memories, and reflections, interspersed with quiet moments where they simply hold hands, listen to the sounds of the house, and feel the presence of one another, understanding that this connection is the true measure of wealth and fulfillment. Each gesture, each word, and each shared smile reinforce the bond between them, a bond that is resilient, loving, and capable of sustaining them through whatever days lie ahead, leaving both mother and son with a profound sense of healing, gratitude, and hope for the future. The night has settled completely, and the house is bathed in the soft glow of the living room lamps, the shadows long and comforting as Ethan Carter sits beside Margaret, her hand resting gently in his. He reflects on the journey that has brought them here, the years of distance, the unspoken regrets, and the quiet triumph of reconnecting in a way that words cannot fully capture. Ethan reaches for the small photo album on the coffee table, flipping it open to images of his childhood, of family gatherings and simple moments of joy, and Margaret leans closer, her eyes softening as she traces the outlines of the photographs with her fingers. They reminisce about the times that shaped them, sharing laughter and soft sighs, the sound filling the room with warmth and a sense of completeness. Ethan begins to speak of the days ahead, gently suggesting routines and small projects they might enjoy together, such as tending to the garden, cooking meals, and exploring the familiar streets of their neighborhood. And Margaret listens intently, her expressions a mixture of curiosity, delight, and hope. He notices the flicker of excitement in her eyes when he mentions the possibility of hosting friends for a simple gathering, and he smiles, knowing that these small gestures of life and community can bring immense joy and a sense of normalcy back into her days. Ethan carefully adjusts her cushions, ensuring she is comfortable, and pours tea in her favorite cup, the aroma rising gently between them, mingling with the faint scent of lavender from the small vase on the mantel. Margaret sips slowly, savoring the warmth and the attention, and Ethan watches her with quiet gratitude, appreciating the subtle cues that signal her contentment and trust. They spend hours in soft conversation, recalling shared memories, discussing plans for the coming days, and reflecting on the lessons learned from their time apart. Each word and gesture reinforcing the bond that had been strained by distance and circumstance. Ethan narrates stories from his own experiences, highlighting the small victories and acts of kindness that have shaped him, while Margaret responds with gentle nods and reflections, her laughter and smiles punctuating the quiet moments, creating a rhythm that is both comforting and restorative. As the evening progresses, Ethan gently encourages Margaret to share her thoughts, dreams, and desires, listening attentively, his presence a grounding force, and she responds with honesty and warmth, deepening their connection and mutual understanding. The quiet hum of the house, the soft glow of the lamps, and the rhythmic ticking of the clock create a cocoon around them, a space where time seems suspended and the focus is solely on the reconnection of hearts and the nurturing of a bond